Okay, so the next step is UV unwrapping. So to put this into very simple terms, UV unwrapping is the process of taking your 3D model and then breaking it into a flat surface, kind of like if you're breaking down a cardboard box. This is a necessary step in texturing after you've modeled. You need to do the UV unwrapping. Now, if you're a member of an actual company doing this sort of work, then more than likely the UV mapping work has already been done for you, okay? So you may not need to do this step in the real world, but for this case, we're going to count it as part of the texturing step. So I'm going to leave my mirror modifier on, and I'm just going to check this box here. And when you check on and off this option, what it does is it changes whether you're going to see those extra verts in your edit view, okay? So I'm just going to check that off until my model looks like this, okay? And my next step is to find where my seams are going to go. So you want to place your seams according to the texturing. So looking at my picture, I can kind of see where the skin is, where the shell is, and what I'm trying to do is follow that the best I can and try to keep my seams in places where they're not going to be as visible. So I'm going to place my seams for the most part on the back of the model, and I'm also going to try to follow where the textures are going to be applied. So right here, this is where the arm meets the shell, so I'm going to start there. So I'm going to go into edge select mode by clicking here. I'm going to hold Alt, and I'm going to right click right here, and that should select the loop, okay? Now I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, is that the right loop? And actually, if it was blue from there to here, it would look really bad, right? So I think I need to select another loop up, so I'll try that one. Okay, that looks pretty good, but it looks like it missed that, so I'm going to hold Shift and click right there. That's where I want my seam to be, so I'm going to hit Mark Seam. Now, if you don't have that already in front of you, it's under the Shading/UV tab. You say Mark Seam. By the way, if you're not already in Edit mode, you can hit Tab to go into Edit mode. Okay, now I'm going to do where the head meets the shell, so I'm going to right-click on this edge here. I'm going to hold Control, which allows you to follow the edge selection, and I'm going to click there. I'm going to click Mark Seam. Okay, that looks good. So that should separate the head out. Now I'm going to do the same thing here for the leg. Just going to click here. I'm going to say Mark Seam. And then the tail, the same thing. Where's the tail going to meet? I think about here. So I'm just going to Alt right click that and hit Mark Seam. So that takes care of the big picture. Oh, looks like I forgot the neck. Alt right click. And then if you forget, you just go to do it again. So I forgot to hit Mark Seam. There we go. Mark Seam, Mark Seam, Mark Seam. Looks like it's selected, but I can't really see it because it's in that little hidden section there. But if we go inside with the Control F, you'll see it's marked, or Shift F. Let's go fly mode. Okay. So I'm just going to now think about these arms. Okay, so I'm going to split this down the back, okay? So I'm going to click there and then hold Shift and click here and here and here and here. See, I'm just working my way down the back of the arm. And then for his hands, I'm going to have a seam. I want it right here. And then I'm just going to go up the fingers from here and then break these open at the fingertips. If you ever misclick and you got to undo it, you can just hold Shift down and click that again, and you can remove the selection on the face. Okay, try to not select all the faces, because then you end up getting its own island, and that's not what we want. We don't want little fingertips floating around our UV map. So I select it like that, and then I'm going to hit Mark Seam. That should take care of my hand. Okay. For the mouth, I'm going to select this loop right around the tongue. Okay. So I'm going to select here, and I'm going to have to get a little fancy here. I'm going to select that. I'm going to go up Control plus, and then plus one more time. And then I'm going to Control I to inverse my selection and hide. And that allows me to get into the mouth a little bit better. And I'm going to color probably this whole section pink. So I'm just going to select all that and then say Mark Seam. And then Alt-H to bring everything back into view. Okay, now down the back of the head, I need to split this open, right? So I'm thinking like probably bring it up the back of the head and probably to about there. And I'm just going to mark the seam. And then for the toes, I am going to need at least to break open the toes so that I can have them lay flat. So I'm thinking I will chop this middle loop down. By the way, it's all going to make sense once I actually unwrap it, because right now it's just like an abstract idea and you haven't seen it unwrapped yet. So if you're just watching this and then you're going to do it on your own, that seems like a smart plan, actually. I'm selecting. Okay, I'm going down the side of the foot now, and I'm being very wary of when I end up with a whole face selected, because that is when you create islands. And islands are, it's important to make sure you don't have more islands than you need. I'm just gonna maybe there. If I select this edge. Okay, so I just marked all those. Now let's see what happens when we unwrap it. So to actually unwrap my Squirtle, I will tap A couple times, and I'll go over here and click Unwrap. And I need to, I'm going to switch to a UV editing layout from my workspace switcher. Bring me here. And this is just, I always leave this layout alone, and I use it for just this purpose. Okay, so let's see what we have here. So you can kind of see where these things are and where they come from. So there's the foot, and it's only 1 foot because we're half a model right now. This looks like an eye, right? So that looks pretty good. If you can kind of see what you're doing, that's a good sign. This looks like my shell, and there's my foot, and I don't see any little tiny islands, so this is actually really good. I think it's even better than my previous UV map. Okay, so I don't see any overlapping. That's another thing we're looking for, is where faces are on top of each other, and this actually looks really good. Okay, so to finish our UV mapping job, what we're going to do now is apply the mirror modifier. So I'm going to go switch to object mode, and then probably go back to my default layout, because then I get my modifiers here. And I'm going to click, I'm going to turn off my subdivide smooth, and I'm going to hit apply on this modifier here. Okay, so now you'll see that the mapping went from one side to the other. You see the red lines? Now they're on my left and right side. And then when I select everything and hit unwrap, and then switch to my UV editing window, you'll see now I have the completed thing. Okay, so there's my face. There's, oh no, that's my shell. That's my shell. That's the leg holes and the tail hole. And then that's the face. There's the tongue, there's the feet. Okay, this is awesome. So I'm just going to now arrange these in a better way. So I'm going to select all by hitting A a couple times in my UV layout window. And then I'm going to go UVs, average island scale, and then UVs, pack islands. And that gets us really close. Now all I got to do is space these things out. I'm thinking that is the shell. The shell's probably going to need the most space, but we'll work on that in a second. So I'll catch you in a minute.